I'm Scott Munn, along with Tug Coward at the Warrior Alliance Network Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. Tony Johns is an ordained minister who served as the executive director of Crossroads Community Ministries in Atlanta, Georgia since 2016. Under his leadership, Crossroads is tackling the homeless veteran situation head-on in partnership with the Warrior Alliance and making a measurable impact. In fact, because of their steadfast work, the Warrior Alliance named Crossroads Community Ministries the 2024 Community Partner of the Year at the Veteran Impact Awards. Since 1995, Reverend Johns has been helping people through homeless service agencies, church ministries, community development, and education. Reverend Johns founded the Richmond Oaks Mission, developed the Urban Discipleship Center, served on the staff of the Mission Atlanta and the Refugee Community Center. He's taught Bible, theology, and nonprofit development courses for He's taught Bible, theology, and nonprofit development courses for Lee, Patton, and Point Universities and the South American Seminary in Ecuador. Back home in Atlanta, he's a member of St. Luke Episcopal Church. Back home in Atlanta, he's a member of the St. Luke Episcopal Church, where he regularly Sorry, Tug.
You're good.
Back home in Atlanta, he's a member of St. Luke Episcopal Church, where he preaches and leads Bible studies. I'm just going to do that whole line for you again, Tug, so you can cut here.
Yeah, man.
Back home in Atlanta, he's a member of St. Luke's Episcopal Church, where he preaches and leads Bible studies. If you live in Atlanta or any American city, you've seen homeless people on our streets and you've wondered what can be done, especially for our nation's great veterans who truly deserve better. So let's get some inspiration and answers from a man who is serving our country on the front lines right here in Atlanta, Georgia. Reverend Tony Johns, welcome to the Warrior Alliance Spotlight.
Thanks, Scott. It's great to be with you guys.
Yeah, man. Glad that you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for joining us, Reverend. Now, you have quite an extensive bio, a lot of stuff to cover there on that intro, man. And that includes going to seminary, becoming an ordained minister, of course, and you have a career in various leadership roles in nonprofit, too. How did all of that develop for you to become the executive director at Crossroads Community Ministries? And do you feel like you're in a divine place now? Are you on a route that's been led for you?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Probably one that I wouldn't have chosen for myself, as you can imagine. I'm the son of a preacher, and so I was quite determined to go in a different direction.
That's what they always say. Preacher's kid's the worst.
We're always trying to get out and go a different direction. But after college and working a couple of years as a high school teacher, I kind of knew where I was supposed to be. I kind of did a Jonah. I kind of ran away. Instead of Nineveh, I ran away to Orlando. But I was swallowed by a fish and put in the right place. And so I've been in Atlanta for 25 years now after going to seminary. Growing up, we traveled all over the country ministering, my dad and our family. As can happen, we faced some real difficult times, including periods of homelessness as a family. And so have a really keen understanding, personal experience with what it's like to face the crisis of homelessness, how desperate it can be, and how oftentimes you don't know where to turn. And that's what we see often here in Atlanta. But came to Atlanta, like I said, 25 years ago, got involved in ministry to immigrants and refugees in South Atlanta, and from there moved into the nonprofit homeless service provider community while continuing to minister at different churches. Came to Crossroads 8 years ago. Had a great opportunity open up for me and was recruited and had the blessing of being able to take the position of executive director. So it's been a great 8 years there and working with the St. Luke's Episcopal Church community, which is a very giving church.
I love that. It's funny because you see a lot of signs in Atlanta standing on exit ramps saying, can you spare money, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember my mama always handing dollar bills out the door, and I would ask her, I was like, why do you do that? How do you know that they really need anything? And she was like, if they can live with it, I can live without it. And so that's been what I've stuck with my whole life and passed it down to my own son, and that's kind of our mantra. We don't have a ton to give, but we try to give a couple dollars here and there when we have it and when it's available. But I think people run into that because they don't want to be taken advantage of themselves.
Sure.
And they get frustrated by thinking that somebody would use such a tough situation to prosper is probably not the right word, but to benefit from. And so that's the mentality I have about it, when it comes to that stuff. And I've never experienced homelessness, so I thank the Lord every day for that. But your primary mission, I want you to talk about that and how veterans are a part of it there at Crossroads.
Sure. When you're dealing directly with those experiencing homelessness, you're always going to have a subpopulation of veterans. And in fact, in Atlanta, at least 10% of those that we count each year are veterans experiencing homelessness. That's just those who reveal their veteran status. It may be more than that. But we started out in Atlanta. We started our own, what we call a continuum of care, about 12 years ago. We had been part of a larger continuum, but the city of Atlanta started their own about 12 years ago. The very first mandate we had was to end veteran homelessness. So you go back 9 years ago or so, there were well over 700 individuals experiencing homelessness on any given night in Atlanta who were veterans. We have cut that more than in half.
Wow.
This past year, the count we had was about 287 or so. Now, that's not how many veterans are experiencing it throughout the year. Now, again, that's just a one-night snapshot. But it gives you an idea that with the overall problem, we have made great strides, but there's still more to do. And so my organization, Crossroads Community Ministries, is a very frontline organization. Our door is open to anyone experiencing or at risk of homelessness, which I know we'll talk about a little bit later. We see about 6,000 individuals a year that come through our door looking for some type of assistance. And of course, we're that first step organization. We're that place you go when you are in crisis and you're not sure where to go. And so from Crossroads, we're able to send them to the various agencies throughout the city that might meet their specific need, whether that be income, housing, mental health services, health care, on and on and on. We see, the spectrum of different issues being experienced that cause people to enter homelessness or be stuck in homelessness. So, of course, at least 10%, maybe more of those are veterans. And so we understand that there is a unique need, a unique context, a unique circumstance for those who are veterans, who may be experiencing whatever level of trauma that may exist, whatever level of disconnection that can happen when you attempt to reintegrate into civilian society. So we understood that we had to have programs that were just for veterans to listen to and understand what their unique situation was so that we could have a very specific answer, just like we do with any subpopulation of homelessness.
Well, talk about that. What are those challenges that cause veterans to be at risk?
Usually it's being disconnected from the providing community. So, yes, are there great programs throughout the city that meet every level of need for veterans? Of course. But if I'm coming back into society, how do I know who that is, where they are? How do I get there? Who do I talk to? Those are all things that you need some kind of guidance, navigation. One of the great things about the Warrior Alliance and the reason we're a partner is because they understand navigation to be key to helping veterans who come back and don't know where to go to find the right thing. Because there's not one answer. There's no one answer because every situation for a veteran experiencing homelessness is different. For those who have disabilities, for those who have mental health challenges, for those who are facing economic challenges, you've got to listen and you've got to have a specific plan for each of those challenges.
Reverend Johns, we were talking before the show about how another fellow who's come in on here on the Warrior Alliance Network, Tony Kimbrough, is a friend of yours at the Veterans Empowerment Organization, or the VEO. And that made me think about how different organizations kind of need to work together. And do you collaborate with, I know you work with Tony, and do you collaborate with a lot of community organizations and kind of help prevent this from occurring, or is it more of like a way where you're surrounding it and solving the problem, or is there, what kind of a defense are we doing, prevent or attack?
It's all of the above.
Uh-huh.
It really is, and again, that's because every situation is different. So for instance, in our housing program, we get great funding from the United Way of Greater Atlanta. We do a program called Mission United and Family Assistance, and that is specifically geared toward helping veterans identify and move into permanent stable housing. Or, on the other hand, those who are in housing and are at risk of losing the housing, helping them to stay. So, yes, prevention, rescue, whatever it may be, we have to have solutions on all fronts.
That's fantastic. And tell us about your partnership with the Warrior Alliance specifically, and how is being a part of the Community Integration Network supporting your mission? That's
really been transformative for our service to veterans because, for a while we were kind of entering into the waters on our own, not really understanding how to navigate all of the resources and services available. And we get connected to the Warrior Alliance, and they're the experts, right? They know where to go, what to do. And so we were able to just add our piece, which, again, it's limited, and we're trying to expand that. But right now, our piece is we can help you move in, or we can help you stay in housing. That's what we can do. Beyond that, then we're going to have to help navigate. Well, here comes an organization that has that built into their DNA. And they know how to navigate whatever other resource it may be. So we work across the spectrum of agencies that are partnered with Warrior Alliance, but it's so much quicker to go straight to the source, to Warrior Alliance, and they know exactly what to do, and so we're really grateful. And then we're excited to receive referrals. Many of our referrals come from the Warrior Alliance to help us with housing.
You're listening to the Warrior Alliance Spotlight. Our guest is Reverend Tony Johns. He is the executive director of Crossroads. You can visit them on the web, crossroadsatlanta.org. And, of course, you can always find them through the Warrior Alliance. That is the warrioralliance.org. Warrior Alliance named y'all Community Partner of the Year at the 2024 Veteran Impact Awards. What kind of recognition does that it really sets you apart, that recognition?
It was a game changer, I'd say, for us and for our visibility in the community. We might have been a little under the radar in what we were doing, but this elevated our status and connected us at a deeper level with resources and other agencies who said, because we're known at Crossroads for our documentation services. That's what we began with. And so what we have done...
Documentation services.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
We began with assisting those experiencing homelessness with birth certificates and state IDs.
Got it.
That's where we started.
That makes sense.
We started even before that as a soup kitchen. Back in 1974, the St. Luke's Soup Kitchen is really the origin DNA of us. We formed a nonprofit in the mid-'90s because we realized just serving a meal every day wasn't enough. People needed more than just a meal. They needed empowerment. They needed opportunity. They needed access and resource and service. And so the first thing we understood is you can't get anywhere in society without an ID, without a birth certificate. Well, where are you keeping your birth certificate when you're sleeping under a bridge? And so many of those we were serving couldn't even make the next step because they didn't have that documentation. So we began doing that, and at the minute we began, we understood they also don't have an address. So we said, okay, use our address. And so now we run kind of a mini post office right there.
Oh my goodness!
And it's a lifesaver for so many people because now I have a place to receive documentation. I have a place to receive benefit checks. I have a place to receive my voter card. On and on and on. All the things that we kind of take for granted because it either comes to our door or we can rent a post office box. They don't have. And so they need that place. And so we're able to give our address so they can apply for the birth certificate, receive it with us in a safe, secure place. If they don't have anywhere to store it, we store it for them.
That sounds like a full-time job in and of itself.
It's a big one. And we are blessed because that entire mailroom operation is run by volunteers.
Wow.
And dedicated volunteers, some who've been there for 20 years doing the same thing. And it becomes a touch point to where people get to know the guests who come in to check mail, and they get to have conversations that you normally wouldn't have in just a case manager setting. And so now you're talking to a friend who helps me get my mail, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what's going on. And now I understand a little bit better how to help that person.
So important because, trying to get a job as a homeless person, one of the big stumbling blocks is that you don't have an address to put down.
That's right.
And people just can't get around that. So you're really helping them out there just with that baseline function, and that's great. And, also how they get there. With the massive inflation right now and rent and housing costs soaring, many people are just a couple of missed paychecks away from the street, right?
That's right.
So what advice can you give to veterans and their families who might be listening? They might be at risk or experiencing homeless right now. What general advice would you give them?
I read a study recently that said as many as 40,000 households in metro Atlanta are a paycheck away from homelessness.
Well, you're seeing record defaults in credit card payments because people are having to use credit cards.
That's right.
Overwhelmingly. Same way with car payments. Record missing of car payments right now.
Eviction is the biggest barrier to housing that we face every single day. Eviction, credit scores, to your point. What often happens with families who may still have an income, but because of whatever situation, usually some kind of medical crisis, divorce, some kind of weather disaster, you name it, that one paycheck is gone. No savings in the one paycheck is gone. You get evicted because you can't pay, and where do you go? Right now, most people are going to extended stay motels.
Yeah.
Still have a great income or enough income, but because of that eviction, they can't get a landlord to let them move into their place. So what I would say, getting back to your question, what I would say is think ahead. Don't wait. So often we'll get a call, I'm being evicted tomorrow. You've got to be prepared. You've got to understand when you see yourself in that tenuous situation that you might be at risk of something, you've got to begin looking for resources right then and there, and know where those are and what to do, how to navigate those. And if you don't know how to navigate, of course, reach out to the Warrior Alliance or to an organization that has this resource so that we can help you navigate that when the time comes.
Let's say there's a veteran listening right now or someone who knows a homeless veteran. What could that person do in the next couple of hours that would make a difference and get them moving in the right direction?
I think just beginning to understand what those resources might be. And again, there's a host of that. Obviously, I continue to refer to the Warrior Alliance because they've already done the work. So I guess what I would say is if you know someone in that situation, if you are in that situation, go to the people who've done the work already and who can already know the steps, already know where those services and agencies are. But other than that, you've got United Way's 211 service if you need to do that. There's also a great website called findhelp.org. You can go and you can find every resource in the community for any situation of crisis.
Oftentimes, internet access is trouble for homeless folks. What's the phone number for your organization there at Crossroads where they can call you guys?
Yeah, you bet. 470-225-1995.
Is it pride? Is it fear of your circumstances? Is it? I just can only imagine that there's just a myriad of reasons that people don't reach out and they wait till the day before the eviction. What's been the experience that you see most often?
Yeah, I think most people, are trying to do it on their own. And saying, and maybe that is pride. Yes, saying, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. Oh, I can't figure this out.
Oh, no.
And at that point, you've received the eviction notice. Unfortunately, in our community, you have a very short time period from receiving the notice until you get out. And usually the process, even for us, takes some time to be able to go through all of the paperwork and the qualifying and verifying that it takes. Because, we don't just you don't just show up and we hand you cash or a check. Obviously, there has to be a whole verification process. We're very accountable with the finances we have. So you need to get that process started the minute you know that there's an issue and be ready to take the next steps.
Prayer time. I've tried to be more deliberate about my prayer time, and I fail miserably all the time, but that's certainly my goal. What is it that you pray for when you're praying about homelessness?
I pray for wisdom. Understanding and wisdom. Lord, let me see beyond the facade, right? Let me see beyond the sign at the end of the off-ramp. Let me see the person. Let me see that person created in the image of God and understand that that's my neighbor, and I've been called to love my neighbor. And so help me to go beyond what is presented. That happens every day in our offices. People are going to come in and they may have a whole story to tell you up front, but that may not be what's at the root and at the core of what is needed. And so help me to understand, and then give me wisdom of what the next step should be.
Because most people don't start with the bad news first.
Right. And I think we're all this way a little bit in interviews and whatever we may do. We put our best foot forward.
Always.
And we're not going to just come in and start unloading our dirty laundry.
And usually that's such a turnoff to people, right? Because I've heard people in our office say this. We're like, oh, it's just the worst. Anytime I see that person, they only bring up the bad stuff, and they immediately leave with the bad stuff. Maybe they don't have anybody else to talk to. There's 1,000 reasons that it could be, but nobody wants to be that person. You know what I mean? So you're right. Best foot forward always.
Yeah. And Reverend Johns, in prayer, I've been studying a lot lately about how you can take two approaches. You can ask for something, or you can thank the Lord for the fact that it's already written and it's already going to happen, and that it's there. Can you talk a little bit about walking that line in prayer? Yeah,
and I think it's important in every prayer at some point to give thanks, even when we're going in crisis and in need and in desperation to the Lord. We can read the Psalms, and I think one of the great things about the Psalms is David will unload the mourning and the desperation, but he'll always come around to thanksgiving. And I think that we all have to take that journey, right? To understand, even in the midst of the biggest storm, that there is a shelter, there is a refuge, and that we do need to cry out for that. But for those of us who are in a stable situation and we are praying about what to do, I think that we pray, and then we put our prayer into action. And we find ways to make a difference. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to come down to Crossroads and be a frontline case manager. But you might make a sandwich and donate it. You might make a financial gift. You might.
Your time's the most valuable thing you have.
That, it's kind of an old adage, but time, talent, and treasure, right? Generosity is not just about money. It's about what I can do with my hands, with my feet. And we're called to be the hands and feet of Christ. And so let's put that into action with our prayer.
CrossroadsAtlanta.org is where you can get involved and figure out if you're going to make a sandwich or get down there and really roll up your sleeves. Either way, I know it's appreciated. And speaking of being grateful, we're all grateful for family. And I hear you got a great family. You've been married for 28 years and a couple of kids that are out of the house. I mean, that's the goal, right? Tell us all about your family.
Oh, goodness, we don't have enough time, but I'll try to
do the best you can.
I'll give you the condensed version. But I have an incredible hero of a wife. She's has done much more than I have for this world. She is a first grade teacher at Holly Springs Elementary in Douglasville.
There you go.
And she has, for almost 30 years now, loved on and cared for and educated children. And she's just an amazing, compassionate, courageous individual. And I might get a little choked up about that. So, but then I have two of the greatest kids in the world. My daughter's a proud UGA grad.
How about them dogs?
Yeah, and which isn't the school I root for, but that's okay.
Oh, who do you root for?
I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Auburn fan.
Okay,
yeah.
Those War Eagles. And no two kids. Two of my son's best friends are at Auburn. So.
Okay,
that's okay.
All
That's
right.
kind of a sister school.
Okay,
we get along every day except for
that one day. That's right. Yeah, it's much different than our in-state rivals. So we can say that,
no doubt.
And my son is just doing an incredible job. He's working in retail now, assistant manager at a great store out there in Douglasville.
Nice.
And just an incredible kid.
And a big Braves fan, I hear.
Oh, from birth, man.
Okay.
I had the Del Murphy poster on my wall.
Didn't we all?
With the bat that glowed.
Oh, we all had the same one.
Power Alley.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
That's right. So, died hard, been there every step of the way, and rode the highs and the lows.
Now, the kids are out of the house, 25 and 20, I hear.
Yeah.
But do y'all still get together and go to the Braves game as a family these days?
Of course. That's one of our favorite things to do. And, we love being here at the Battery and enjoying everything that's around.
Also, I know you have an extended family, and that's the folks that are the staff down there at Crossroads. You want to tell us a little bit about them?
Well, they're the ones that get it done, right? I have maybe the title and some of the recognition, but the staff that are there, the frontline workers, are the ones meeting every day with people in crisis, and they're taking the time to really hear what they have to say and to really find a path for them. And so our staff at Crossroads is what makes it happen.
on October 5th, we all have to be separated at the house. How's that go? I know you're a man of the cloth, so I figure you know that you probably handle it well. But
my daughter will make sure that she's very vocal. Absolutely.
Who's your son pull for?
He's kind of a more of a gamer guy and not really a sports guy.
All right.
But he's definitely a Braves fan.
Okay.
So he doesn't really go into the. He's seen too many fights around college football, so he just sticks with baseball that we all can agree on.
What about Miss Angie?
She is an Auburn fan as well.
Did she grow up over there?
She grew up in Tennessee.
Okay.
But I converted her. So
where in Tennessee?
Yeah, Saudi Daisy.
Oh my Lord! Just north of Chattanooga.
Everybody
exactly
in the world knows about Saudi Daisy, and only 15 people live there.
That's amazing. You're exactly right. Well, I tell you, you do good work, Reverend Tony Johns, Executive Director of Crossroads. Visit them at crossroadsatlanta.org or at thewarrioralliance.org. Thank you for what you do, man. You're doing the Lord's work and doing a terrific job of it. We can tell. We appreciate your passion and, first of all, your love for the Lord, but on top of that, your love for His people. So thank you for everything you do and continued success.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thanks for having me here today.
Yes, sir.
God bless you, Tony.
God bless you.